Right, this morning it is my joy and privilege to introduce to you our 8th grade chapel presenter, Charlie Kydell. Charlie came to Montgomery in kindergarten, and Charlie is someone I would describe as a well-rounded Montgomery student. He is smart, and he earns very good grades in his academic subjects. In class, he asks excellent questions and always wants to know the why. He's a good athlete. His main sport are soccer and basketball, but he also plays lacrosse and baseball. He loves to debate, and he puts forth his arguments very convincingly. He is an excellent ambassador for our school. I've seen Charlie in action at many of our admissions events. Whether he is giving someone a tour or he is on the student panel, he is very articulate, confident, and authentic, and represents Montgomery very well. And many parents have told me, who's that young man? He was really impressive. So please join me in welcoming Charlie Kydell to the stage.
Good morning, students, parents, and faculty. My name is Charlie Kydell, and today I'm here to talk to you about experiences and the lessons I have learned throughout my years at Montgomery. When thinking of my chapel topic, I did not want to give you the generic 10-minute lesson on courage or persistence. Instead, I wanted to give you a series of smaller lessons I have learned through each grade here at Montgomery. My journey at Montgomery started when I was in pre-K at the Collegeville KinderCare, and my parents started looking at options for me in kindergarten. They visited Montgomery and a couple other schools and decided Montgomery was the best fit for me with the large campus and hands-on learning. In kindergarten, I was very nervous to start at a new school. I cried almost every day in the first month. I would beg my kindergarten teacher, Mrs. Oakes, to call my parents and have them pick me up, but obviously I got through it. And I got to have some great experiences, such as being walked in to my first chapel by an 8th grader, going to Highland Orchards, and caring for the baby chicks in the classroom. I think the most important lesson I learned was that stepping out of my comfort zone was difficult, and that it wasn't as easy or as simple as people can make it out to be. But it's crucial to step out of your comfort zone to have new experiences and try new things.
I was very nervous when I did my first horseback riding, but now I like it a lot.
Thank you, Chloe. Then I moved up to first grade. I had Mrs. Knaus with a big class of 18 kids. Personally, this year was much easier than last, as I had the benefit of knowing everyone in my class and a knowledge about what the school was like. So in that year, the biggest lesson I learned was to take risks. I knew that to make friends and to learn, I would have to raise my hand in class and make new friends and talk to the big second graders at my lunch table.
When I first came to Montgomery, it was hard for me to talk to people and make new friends, but I took a risk and I talked to them, and now I have a bunch of friends.
Thank you, Brady. In second grade, I had Mrs. Pumphrey for about a month and a half, and then I got a new teacher, Mrs. Benetti. The thing I remember most clearly in Mrs. Benetti's class was the purple through red chart, which graphed behavior throughout the day. In second grade, I was going to be quite social and would often talk during class or call out answers without raising my hand. This would land me in some trouble, having my clothespin fall down the chart at a fast rate and sometimes landing myself a call home. The biggest lesson I learned in second grade was most definitely that actions have consequences. You may not like the consequence, but your only option is to accept it and move on and make better decisions in the future. Fretting upon what happened will do you no good and will actually make it harder to move on and learn the lesson.
I stole something from my sister's room and my mom punished me, so now I know not to steal.
Then I entered third grade. Third grade was one of my favorite years. My teacher, Mrs. Baumeister, was enthusiastic about social studies, which I believe developed my love for it. She knew how to engage the class and make sure everyone understood the material, but was also having fun. In third grade, my mom entered as the head of school, which brought some perks and some challenges along the way. Sometimes I would have to stay late for a board meeting or wait patiently in her office, waiting for her to finish up her work for the day. But I also love getting to see her every day at school, not a luxury most kids have. I love studying medieval times and going to the Renaissance Fair, which is my all-time favorite lower school field trip. We wore costumes and walked around to all the booths to see medieval battles, axe-throwing stations, and night chess. We were now one of the big kids in lower school who got the early lunch and got to have recess with the older kids. We could now get drinks from the famous juice machine. We got the opportunity to sit at fifth grade heads' lunch tables. I loved third grade not only because of the fun I had, but the lesson I learned, which was how you have to learn to have an open mind. In the summer before third grade, I was dreading the year and the extra homework that would come with it. But little did I know, third grade turned out to be a very fun year.
At first, I didn't want to do swimming lessons, and now I really like swimming.
In fourth grade, I had my favorite teacher I've ever had, Mrs. Barker. At the start of the year, I came in wanting to be in Mrs. Clay's class, which turned out to be Mrs. Frizz's class, but I was put in Mrs. Barker's class. Just like the lesson I described before, I came in with an open mind, but still had my doubts, and boy was I wrong. Mrs. Barker gave me extra math material during class to keep me engaged. She was a kind and caring teacher who would ask you how you were the minute you walked in the door. She knew her students like the back of her hand and knew how to keep them engaged and working hard on whatever material was at hand, whether it was geography, math, or reading. You always had to be on your toes in Mrs. Barker's class. Then Mrs. Barker's husband died. The day she told us, everyone was so sad and upset for Mrs. Barker. Mrs. Barker took the rest of the year off. We had a long-term sub who worked hard to continue our progress, but I never stopped missing Mrs. Barker. I think everyone in our class learned the valuable lesson of making every moment count. Tomorrow is guaranteed to nobody.
Every year I visit my cousins and I didn't engage with them as much as I think I should have, and I totally regret doing it.
In fifth grade, I had Mrs. Kelly. She was another great teacher in my lower school journey. We were the leaders of the lower school. We had made it. We knew that we would be looked up to, and we had set a good example for the younger kids at Montgomery. We were the fifth grade table heads now. We filed in last at lower school chapel. We got the big field at recess. We went to Gettysburg and to Philadelphia. I learned how to write my own book, do the order of operations, learned about the American Revolution, and finally performed at Martin Luther King Day Chapel. I also knew that I could count on Mrs. Murata because she was always there for me. I graduated from lower school knowing that I was prepared for middle school, but I was scared. We had brand new responsibilities. We went from the leaders to now being the little sixth graders. I learned that when your time comes, you take the next step, however daunting that may be, because you are prepared to handle that adversity. It doesn't only relate to school. It could be a step up in your profession, a promotion from the B team to the A team on your travel sports team. It could also be going to get a higher education. The point is, nothing has ever been achieved by sitting and being content with what you have. When the recently deceased Kobe Bryant was on top of the basketball world, during the off-season, he would still wake up early and take 500 shots a day.
Coming into middle school was really nerve-wracking at first because of all like the tests and stuff, but after that, coming into sixth grade and meeting new people and all the teachers, it's really nice.
In sixth grade, I had so many new experiences. I played on sports on Montgomery school teams. I had the responsibilities at school to get to class on time with needed materials. We had our class trip to Washington, D.C. We were graded on our work for the first time. We had final exams at the end of the year. We had an advisor we checked into every morning. We ran on a 6-period schedule and had study halls to be proactive and to meet with teachers outside of our class periods. The lesson I learned in sixth grade was that change is good. I was really skeptical and nervous about becoming a middle schooler, but in all honesty, I loved it.
I didn't want to move to my new house because I really liked my old house, but now I like my new house.
In 7th grade, there was an ominous feeling of excitement and dread for another year at school. We all knew this year would not be the end of our Montgomery journey, but we did know we would start looking at our next step. We knew Montgomery wasn't the end, it was just the start of a huge journey of life we were about to embark on. I had a lot of fun at Mrs. Sheldrick's advisory and on the 7th grade trip to Florida. The biggest lesson I learned was to make the best of every moment with friends, because that time is limited, and when it's over, you always wish you had cherished your time here and with your friends more. Finally, we come to this very moment. I'm up here on stage delivering my 8th grade chapel, the rite of passage every 8th grader takes before graduating in June. I'm going to miss all my teachers and Mr. Rajarigam, my friends, and the experiences I've had and will have in the next three or so months. I'm excited to go to Canada in April. I'm excited for Greek and Roman games in May, but I'm dreading walking across that stage in June. I know I've told you this whole chapel that you always need to take the next step. And while it's 100% true, it doesn't mean it will be easy. So the last lesson I'll leave you with is to make the right decision, not the easy one. Thank you.